Hi there, welcome to this week market analysis. So over here, as usual, what we're going to do is to look at some of the major pairs, walk through the technical analysis, and update you guys on what are some of the opportunities and things to take note of. So let's start off with the dollar index over here. Okay, so for now, the overall structure, we're still expecting a little bit more on the downside. As long as price is able to maintain below this recent high at 103.05, we're still essentially seeing this as a 1, 2, 3, wave 4 as a running flat, and we are probably developing the last wave down with a potential target back at the previous low around 100.80. So short term over here, if we do get a decent kind of corrective structure, and of course we can put in a intermediate trend line, if you can see price breaks below that impulsively, then the probability that price is going to hit the previous low at 100.80 is going to be increased significantly, right? And then that's where we're going to expect more weakness from the dollar itself. Now moving on to the euro. Okay, euro as of now, what we're seeing here is we do have this intermediate trend line. Price seems to be supported by it a couple of times. And yesterday we did get a strong little bounce back up after the price test this trend line here as well, so we can't get a V shape right now. And we're holding on to a neutral point of view. Okay, so euro dollar here, what can potentially happen is this may continue to climb to retest the previous high here, which is around 1.1030, and that would probably put in what we know as a kind of double top as well as a confluence of a wedge, or what we call a crawl, and that also will come in very nicely as a 1, 2, 3. 3 times it touches the top, giving us a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a complete internal, and we can look for more downside at least for the short term from there on. So for now, just be patient. Okay, if I were to look forward a little bit more, looking at how the price is developed from here, this may just be the first wave of a leading diagonal. So any pullback from there on, you can still take the short, but long term here, we may still see a little bit more upside for the euro. So that's a little bit too far off right now to be really focusing on it, but I think right now near term is we're looking at how the price is going to develop here. If we do get a slow move to the upside, we do see some rejection around this zone. That's where we can consider take a short-term sell trade. Okay, so let's see how that's going to develop for the euro. Okay, but for now, we're just going to be patient and wait for the market to develop a little bit more to give us more clue what it wants to turn out to be. Next, we do have the GBP USD. Okay, so pound over here, overall, it's not the cleanest structure. Okay, this is a little bit complicated, but for now we'll just stick to this as a running flat. So we have a 1, 2, 3 is still developing, right? So internally what we see here is this is 1, 2, and then of course 3, 4, 5, right? So it's not the cleanest. There's still many different possibilities of how this can play out, but we're sticking to the part right now where this is definitely corrective in nature. Can this turn out into a bigger corrective structure potentially? Okay, so we're basically monitoring right now, holding a slightly bullish bias. As long as price can stay above this recent low, this may just pop back up to retest that level. Okay, so of course, focus on the buy trade setup. If you get any buy potential, you would definitely want to be more on the buy side compared to the sell side of things, based on what we're seeing right now. Okay, so pound dollar, we're looking at buy potential over here. Not the cleanest setup, not the clearest structure, but of course, based on your own trading plan and strategy, if you get a valid buy, okay, you may consider on that. Now, Aussie dollar, we are looking at short-term sell. So over here, the market recently put in a corrective structure. We did get a break below that trend line recently. We're expecting a deeper pullback first, so I'm a bit more patient on this. Ideally, we want to see the pullback towards 50 and 618, which can retest that channel or trend line 2, and we can then consider a short-term sell trade back to the previous bottom. Now for me, Aussie dollar, any sell would be considered as a short-term trade. The reason is because on the higher time frame perspective, on the larger scheme of things, this may have come down and retest a couple of times, this area here. So in the long run, this may bounce back up. Okay, so for that reason, I'm not going to hold on to any sell for the long run. Primarily just taking a sell, and then if it hits here, I'm going to just exit that trade and look for a next opportunity after that. So that's on the Aussie side of things. And then we do have the dollar CAD over here. Okay, so dollar CAD, pretty neat overall. We are expecting a little bit more downside. So from this structure point of view, we have a 1, 2, 3. This may be the completion of wave 4, and wave 4 may be completed, right? So if that's the case, then we can expect the 5th wave to start developing. Of course, what we can also see here is that wave 4 may still be developing into a bigger move like that. Whatever it is, I think the directional bias is down. That's quite clear. And obviously, we wouldn't know for sure, whether this is the entire piece of wave 4 or this wave 4 is still going to develop a little bit more before that drop. But what we can do is, of course, we can look for any sell setup. We'll just take it and manage the trade along the way. And of course, our target over here is back at the previous low around 1.3260. Right, so I think dollar CAD is definitely one of the clearest structures so far in terms of the major pairs. The other one that I think is quite neat is the dollar yen. Okay, so dollar yen, the structure is quite clear as of now as well. We're basically seeing a 3-wave development. 1, 2, 3. Now, short term here, if we can get a decent corrective pullback, we may consider this as a buy trade. Definitely short term, right? Taking it from somewhere around 132 to 134.7, so that's about 200 pips. Definitely a short term trade, right? What's more interesting, I would say, as a swing trade, is somewhere around this area for a potential sell, bringing this all the way down to complete the bigger structure of a 1, 2, 3. Okay, so dollar yen here, I would say, even if you don't get anything this week, it's definitely a pair that is worth keeping an eye on in your watch list for the next 2 to 3 weeks, right? Because that setup may come to you within that time frame, and you probably wouldn't want to miss this trade to the downside if that's going to be a valid sell. Okay, so dollar yen, do keep an eye on it. Then we have gold. Okay, so gold recently may have completed this 1, 2, 3, 4 as a triangle, and then 5th wave up. We do have a divergence here. The thing is, of course, catching the very top or the very bottom is not so straightforward, right? What can happen is this can just keep developing like that, and we can still see wave 5 completed higher. Okay, so this is the part where we won't know 100% where it is gonna be done. But what we can do, as I always say, is when you get a valid setup, you can take it, manage the trade along the way. You might get out, in a couple of break-even trades. You might get out in a couple of small losses. But that's the part where you're gonna look into if you are looking at a reversal trade. Okay, so gold right now, as of what we're seeing, is retesting this 618. If you can get a rejection, then at least for a short run, we can aim for a target at 1950. Now, if that's the case, then what we can see is wave 3 and wave 5 may be done. And this is a 1, 2, 3 ABC, and then we can look for more upside from there on. So next few days, do keep an eye on how the gold price is going to react around this zone at 618 retracement. And of course, this evening, we do have the US CPI data coming in as well. So that may create some kind of catalyst for the major pairs, okay, to be developing. So keep an eye on that too. Okay, crude oil, we have been consolidating for the past, I would say, like almost 2 weeks. Since the start of April, oil prices has been just going sideways. Near term, we are still expecting a 5th wave development to the upside. So right now, if you can get a decent pushback down, ideally corrective in nature, we can expect one more push up, right? So this is quite clear. If you're looking at crude oil, see if we can get that decent pullback to its 78.25, and then that will be a buy trade potential. And then we have the S&P over here. In terms of S&P right now, we are holding a neutral perspective because we want to see how this is going to come back down. If this is going to come down slow and overall this is how it looks like, we can of course expect more upside from there on. However, we want to be careful because if this drops and break this impulsively, this opens up more downside before the big move back up, right? And this drop here can come back to retest this area somewhere around that 50% mark from the low to the high. So we are holding on to a neutral perspective, and we just want to see how the market is going to develop here. If this comes down slow, we'll look for a buy. If this comes down fast, impulse, break that, and then we'll consider maybe a short-term sell, and then we'll look for a buy maybe at a lower price point. Okay, so that's the trade plan for S&P. Last one over here to talk about is Bitcoin. So yesterday it kind of broke that 30,000 level, and of course we wouldn't be buying at the top, right? After an impulse push, don't buy it immediately. But what we'll be looking out for is if you can get a decent pullback, maybe towards that 50 and 618, that would be a more ideal price point to look for a buy, right? And of course, if you are looking at just very simple support resistance zone, you might have some confluence over here as well, right? So it's kind of breakout retest, look for an upside. Okay, so that's all from me for today's video over here. All the best to your trading, and I'll see you guys in the next one.